Wait, it's preparing. Wait. It's loading.
I feel like I
I
should.
realized.
Okay, then, well, looks like we're all good to start. I guess just for some filler, I'd just like to welcome everyone to the amazing 24 Hours of STEM stream. This being the first hour, I'd like to welcome all of you. If anyone's even here at the moment, then thank you very gratefully for joining so early into the stream. That is very amazing. Just a quick introduction. I'm Casey. I'm a senior, as well as being a member of FRC Team 125. And our first guest would be, well, I guess I'd point this way, but you can't even see my hand, would be Renee. I'm assuming you just like to say hi.
Hello. Thank you, Casey. I definitely appreciate it. You're doing an absolutely fantastic job. And as Casey said, welcome to anyone who is tuning in. And Casey, back to you.
Okay, well, thank you. I guess we'll just give people a little bit of time to join. I think we should do maybe 6:03. We'll give it 2 minutes or so, just let people join in.
I love it. Casey, why don't you tell me a little bit more about your background, and then I can do the same while we wait for people to join.
Perfect. So I joined my robotics team in freshman year, and I think as soon as I joined the team, I saw that I wanted to join non-tech. So for my 4 years of experience, this has predominantly been non-tech, and I'm on the presentation team. So I think that's where my background has led to me being an MC for tonight. So
Oh, that's fantastic. You're doing an excellent job. I'm very impressed. So my name's Renee Becker Blau, or RBB, and I am a community building STEMinist that believes that our future is built better together, and that every student, regardless of gender, race, or socioeconomic status, should be able to choose if they'd like to pursue a career in STEM instead of life circumstances choosing for them, including random things like being geographically located near hills and so in rural areas of Indiana and being unable to get solid internet connections, because that's a thing.
that is very, very interesting.
It is. And I grew up in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. I was on Team 1675 back in the day. I was captain for 4 years. I went to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities and started up Go First. It's an alumni organization. It's now called U of M Robotics because they became like an official group that is like run out of the student union. And I'm very, very proud of that. It's still going on today. I was president for 3 years. I graduated in 3 years from college with a degree in scientific and technical communication. Casey, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but if you've ever scheduled college visits when there's like a regional taking place, it's definitely something that you can do and something that I did as well when I was your age. So I ended up visiting the Minnesota Regionals. I ditched my tour of campus and I went to the 2 events, saw all my friends, and then, made it back for a meeting with my counselor who talked to me about the scientific and technical communications program there. And I basically asked them, did you invent this for me? This is amazing. So I learned presentation skills. I was able to develop, I focused in communication. I learned about, rhetoric, Socrates, presentations, how to break down an argument. I felt like it was literally everything related to like crafting a solid and reasonable chairman's essay, if that makes sense, and how to put that presentation together in those different pieces. So I mentored quite a few teams at that time. There was at one point where in like a 3-year period, I worked with 4 different teams that won 5 chairman's awards. And then when I graduated from college, I got a marketing, degree. And then, I became a marketing associate. I didn't like working from home at the time. So COVID's been a little interesting, to say the least. But my husband ended up getting a job at Andy Mark. And so we came down to Indiana. I became an AmeriCorps Vista. I was also a senior mentor in Minnesota for a time. And then turned into the executive director of First Indiana Robotics. So I led us through the district transition. And then have, started getting a master's in nonprofit management. So I'm one class away from finishing up my master's. So very excited about that. And I just took an advocacy course, and that's what we're talking about today. So I'm so excited to be able to be here and get started. So I think that with 5 minutes in, anyone who's joined is probably going to join. Do you agree, Casey?
I pretty much agree. I just want to
Okay.
say what a prestigious career you've had, and I guess it's very befitting of you to be speaking about the topic we're talking about today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you don't mind, I can always throw questions your way, or you can throw questions over to me. So feel free. I like having a dynamic audience, so we can go from there. But I'm going to see if I can share my screen, like the specific, actual page that it is. So here we go. So if you can see, I'm talking, it should say Reinvented Magazine. Do you see the slide?
Yes, I do see the slide.
Excellent. All right. And if I shrink that a little bit, is the slide now more square?
Yeah.
A little bit. Okay. All right. Well, more, I don't know, rectangular, less black space there. Okay. So, I came here today. I have this great FIRST background. I love the FIRST program. And more recently, I realized that as a mentor and as an advocate for women in STEM, et cetera, I can do a lot to mentor, beyond FIRST and kind of offer these amazing opportunities and feedback and network connections, to these FIRST, alumni, FIRST students, et cetera, by getting, expanding my network. And so I had heard about Reinvented Magazine. It was created essentially to reinvent the general perception of women in STEM. And we do this through shining a spotlight on role models at every point in their career by amplifying their stories. We print actually physical magazines to ensure everyone, regardless of internet availability, can access STEM resources. And then we equip women with opportunities, tools, and resources to be successful in STEM fields. And so it's this community of women empowering women, because we all know that you can't be what you can't see. So in terms of Reinvented Magazine, there's this question around what is advocacy? And this ties in really well to the fact that I was taking this course earlier this year about what is advocacy. And I learned quite a bit about the different processes related to it. But then I also realized that, when you look at the definition of advocacy, it's truly this definition that means that everyone can be an advocate. And it's something that I feel like when I was a student, people didn't really talk to me about it. But I am a passionate community builder who wants to make sure that people understand that by having a voice and by using your voice for good and to empower other people, you can literally change the world. And so this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I actually did this at one of the ISTE conference 2 weeks ago in partnership with NCWIT and another couple organizations, the National Girls Collaborative Project as well. And so we kind of talked about all of our different groups and why advocacy is important. But from this point of view, advocacy kind of has these different definitions, and I'll let you read that because you guys, can take a look at that. But one of the ones that I really liked was the Latin root of it, which was basically, considered to call to one's aid or to summon. And I just love that. And I didn't think that was something that was commonly known. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that piece of it. And so, going back to this Reinvented Magazine, how it got started is because our fearless leader and CEO and editor-in-chief, Kaylee Looney, was reading this fashion magazine and realized that she wanted to read more about what was going on in the tech world than really in this world of fashion. But at the time she was doing this, I think it was closer to like 2018, 2017, somewhere around there, tech magazines didn't really have the same female presence that you would find in these fashion magazines. And that's where the idea for Reinvented was really created. And what's really neat is that over the past year and a half, essentially, the organization has distributed 10,000 print magazines. They've donated 3,000 of those in a one-for-one program that gets these physical magazines into the hands of youth in these areas where they don't necessarily have access to all of these amazing resources and technology that we have. We have readers in all 50 states. Shout out to Wyoming for, getting on board. And then we also have 23 countries that we have readers in. And so it's been really exciting to kind of see all of these different pieces come together, and to really focus on these different aspects of the program. And so, again, as I said earlier, we have this providing the role models. So like we highlight these fantastic women, like Alyssa Carson, first woman on Mars sort of, platform, right? We do a STEAM Dreamer series. And so we literally talked to role models from all walks of life and asked them to give us this short intro about how they got to where they are today, who they are. And then we jump into a panelist session where we're able to have students in college ask these questions and kind of go back and forth with them and really learn, all of these amazing tips about life, the universe, and everything. And then we also have an opportunity for these hands-on experiences back before COVID, back in the day. We tied in a do-it-yourself project. And so like you can do a DIY STEM related activity, like making a holiday LED card. And so I'm explaining all of this because issue number 6, which is the most recent issue, was all about advocacy. And so the invitation to come to the ISTE conference and work with NCWIT and National Girls Collaborative was really pertinent to, talking about advocacy. And so, essentially, advocates want to change the world for the better. And I'd love to throw these questions out to the audience. And depending on, Casey, how many responses we get and things like that, maybe you can help me kind of facilitate some conversation. But what I really want to know from the audience is, what do you advocate for? We talked about some of those definitions about, standing up and using your voice for others, about, being really supportive of something. Even if you stand here and you're like, what do I advocate for? Well, I think that we should all eat burgers on Friday. Like, you can be an advocate for that. Like, that is an absolute example, but you can also be an advocate for, underserved youth to be provided access to STEM opportunities. You could be an advocate for, people from all walks of life to every single one of them have access to a FIRST program. There are a lot of different ways that you can be an advocate and believe in something and, work together for this mission. And so, I'd love to know what you care about and what actions you've taken to really be an advocate in that role. For me, really thinking, through what I was passionate about, I was like, I just felt like I needed to do more related to supporting women in STEM. And so that's where, volunteering with Reinvented came from. Have you given any donations to organizations? On a personal level, I donate to NPR because I like listening to National Public Radio every morning. And so, that's something that I believe in and I support, having this unbiased news source that I'm able to listen to. And then, using your voice. When I was younger, I always felt like I shouldn't post on social media. I was nervous about what people would think about me, but more recently, and again, going through the process of getting my master's in nonprofit management, using my voice to make sure I'm saying things like, Black Lives Matter, and, we need to make sure that we are changing the world in a way that betters everybody, not just, select groups of people and things like that. And we need to recognize when we are, privileged with things like, if from me personally, my dad was able to get off of work at 3 p.m. every day. He picked me and my friends up at 3:30 at when high school got let out. And then he would drive us to our robotics meetings, down at a different high school. And that was something that we were privileged to have. And so even though, from my background, like I went to school in Milwaukee Public Schools, I went to Rufus King, a college-bound school. I was a minority in terms of race, a majority in terms of gender. On the robotics team, I was one of the, not a lot of females, but there were definitely a number of us. And so, being able to use my voice to kind of give a platform for these different pieces was very important. So Casey, now that I've kind of, asked those various questions, is there anything from the chat that you'd be able to throw in that we could answer?
Well, recently in the chat, I was just notified that someone is actually an advocate for, let me get the correct terminology for it, ocean conservation. Very interesting.
No, that's amazing. I actually, in this issue of Reinvented, we actually have a whole article about ocean conservation. It's underneath our environmental activism piece. So that's kind of a brilliant tie-in. So that's so cool. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for sharing. If there's any more, you can definitely, let me know. But I did want to share some information about how you can be, active on your social media via, so essentially social activism 101, right? So the idea behind social activism is that this is action taken with the intention for social change. So like, Reinvented Magazine, we want to reinvent STEM. Like FIRST Robotics, we want to show that, scientists and astronauts can be just as inspiring as movie stars and athletes. We want students to aspire to be these STEM leaders in the world. And so again, social activism, action taken with intention for social change. And really there's this focus on addressing the root cause of inequity. And so when Martin Luther King was there, he's an example of someone who is a social activist. Greta Thunberg nowadays is a social activist. And then of course the great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG, her ability to strive for equality and make sure that men and women were supported across the board was incredibly valuable. And then finally, there's also the ability to use your STEM skills to fuel social activism. So someone mentioned, oceans, which was absolutely incredibly, awesome. Your ability to use STEM skills to break down a problem and then invent a solution to clean the ocean, would be a way for you to merge your STEM talent with your social activism efforts. As an example, Virginia Tech, they were doing a Flint water study, and their research team, helped identify, and using social media, they were able to kind of share those different pieces. Casey, I see you popped up here. Were there any other questions that came in from the chat that I can pause and answer real quick?
No, but I just thought that if you popped back to me, I should rather keep my camera on than jumping back and forth to turning it on and off.
No problem. I appreciate it. And, again, this can be very dynamic. And I really like being able to kind of work with someone on the call. So if you have any questions, just let me know. So in terms of these, tips and tricks that we're talking about here, this is something that we laid out, one of the graphics from the latest issue. And really, we want to make sure that when you're moving forward and you're sharing something on social media to like raise awareness and to use your voice and to advocate for something, you want to make sure you're verifying the information before you share it. So this is really making sure, if you've heard the term misinformation, that's kind of, what you're trying to prevent here, right? So you want to make sure that the information that you are sharing is from a reasonable source and the reasonable, reputable person. So universities, researchers, et cetera. Those are kind of some various examples of what might be, this reputable source. So verify the information, check to make sure it's a reputable source, and then encourage an action. And so as you're advocating for something, if you just say, we need to save the turtles and plastic straws are bad. Okay, but what action are you taking? And if I was really clever, I don't have it with me, but like I have little like metal straws, right? And so I carry those with me in my bag normally. It's actually by my desk over in my office. And so I normally, have these metal straws. And so that's something that I use because I want to reduce the number of plastic straws that I use personally on a personal level. And so I can encourage my followers, if I share a picture and it's like, hey, save the turtles, like use the metal straw, like take this action in order to make the world a better place. That's definitely something you can do. Oh my, and then the sensors in the room I'm in went off. So like 1 second. There we go. Okay. Happens sometimes if I sit too still.
We'll talk about conserving electricity.
Well done. Yes, 100%. If I had a better, light, and then we would have been totally fine, but sad day. All right. And then finally, remember to keep up the effort offline. So that's, doing things like you could pick up trash in your community. You could take a vacation down to, insert place where turtles are here. I guess I should have researched that ahead of time. Florida, maybe, and then be able to, go and volunteer with these organizations. So, these are all kind of examples on how you can get involved and what these tips and tricks look like. Beyond just this, idea of sharing on social media, there's also scholar activism. And so this was a term where I was really excited to learn a little bit more about it because I hadn't heard it phrased that way. And so this is the idea where you make a difference and pursue a STEM education. And this is kind of the sweet spot where I feel like a lot of my STEM students really fall into. And especially any students that have really gone through the Lego League program into the FRC or FTC program because of the focus of the Global Innovation Award, which, side note, I am thrilled that FIRST expanded that to be cross program. So now our FTC and FRC teams are able to focus on the Global Innovation Award. I think that is truly an opportunity to change and transform communities. And that's what FIRST is all about. So thrilled with that. But anyways, so you can join STEM organizations that engage in mentorship, right? So the Society of Women Engineers, the National Society for Black Engineers, or the Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers. So SWE, NSBE, SHIP, these are all groups that, because of your background in STEM and because of, who you are, you can join these groups and help support mentor. And it's just one of those things where, being a mentor and making sure that people are able to see what, they can see you is incredibly important, because you can't, like Sally Ride said, if you can't see it, how can you be it? So I think that that's really important to highlight. You can also focus on community through academic research. So earlier I mentioned, the Flint water, crisis and the work that Virginia Tech did to kind of build out that study. So that is a way for you to actually do scientific studies and pull data together and engage in evaluations to assess information.